Okay, before I get started, if they don't run away, I thought I'd show you our little goose family down here. We often get a few little families with their little goslings, and these are like the teenage versions of the geese. And now they hear me talking. They ain't having none of it. They are like, let's get out of here. This ding dong won't leave us alone, spying on us with his camera. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you that. And now on with the tag. Hello and welcome to my porch. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel typically sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today, you know what's happening because I'm out on the porch. Today is a No Tag Tuesday, and the questions this week come from Kat and Walt over at Cat on Point. And this week's questions will be posted down in the description box, as will the links to all the other channels who typically do these tags. So go check them out if you have a chance and watch them not just for their tags, but for all of their content. They have some great content on those other channels. Now, Kat and Walt have apparently decided to torture me, and most likely Kim too, by making us choose favorites once again. You know that's my favorite thing to do. Not. But I did go over these questions with Paul. Doesn't mean I remember everything we went over, but I did basically find kind of answers for everything as long as I remember them. So we shall see. Let's move on with the questions. Number 1, what is your favorite restaurant to dine at, and what is your favorite dish there? As many of you may know, if you've seen these tags, I base things on how I'm feeling at the moment. I don't necessarily have favorites for that reason, but I did come up with this local restaurant called Arturo's, which we go to on occasion. It's an Italian restaurant, very nice, very good food. And typically, because I do change things up, I'll get their butternut squash tortellini with chicken. I'll get whatever strikes my fancy at the moment. But one thing I typically get, though not always, depends on my mood, of course, is their arancini, their little rice balls. So good. Love those. So I'm going to go with Arturo's. I'm going to go with arancini. But you know, it really depends on my mood. Okay, number 2. This is the easiest one out of the group. What is your favorite season, spring, summer, etc., and why? My favorite is fall. Paul's is spring, which is my second favorite. Fall I enjoy because it's after the heat of summer. You're getting that coolness to the air, the crispness, the lovely colors of the leaves changing. My favorite holiday is coming up, Halloween. But there's just, even though it's very similar to spring, there's just something different about the feel of it, it's almost like a cozy feeling. Whereas in spring, you're kind of like shredding off those winter jackets and like, finally, I don't have to bundle up. But then in fall, you're like getting a cozy sweatshirt on. And I don't know, there's just something comforting about fall to me. Paul likes spring because everything's finally coming back to life, which is probably the reason it's my second favorite. I hate the idea that it means winter is coming, because that is my least favorite season. But it's just something about fall that I like. Number 3, what is the favorite vehicle or car you've owned in your lifetime? If you've seen any of my other tags, you know I'm not really a big car person. I don't even really remember what most of my vehicles were. I know the last one before my truck, which is a 2011 Nissan. Before that, it was a Toyota Camry. So those are the only 2 I remember. But I think I'd have to pick the very first car I ever owned that my mother bought me for about $500. Back, as many of you know, I didn't get my license until I was 33. I had moved away from home. My mother got me a car that had paisley lining. The ceiling, roof, whatever, the fabric up there had come loose. I've talked about this before. And they replaced it with this paisley fabric that I loved. I think that would have to be my favorite vehicle, even though I did not own it very long. I don't remember exactly what happened to it. But I think that would have to be my favorite, not only just because it was my first, but also because my mother went out of her way, spent money that she probably really didn't have to get me a car, just to make sure I could get around and drive back home when I wanted to or when she wanted to see me. So I think for that reason, the first car, even though I don't know what it was, I think it was a Buick, maybe an Oldsmobile. I don't know what it was. It was like, I want to say it was like a 78 something, but I could be wrong about that too. I don't know cars, and my memory is shot, so I don't even remember what it was. But if my mother were still around, she would probably remember, I'm sure. But I think that would be my favorite car, the paisley ceiling, roof. I don't know what you call it on a car. Anyway, that's my favorite. Number 4, what is your favorite vacation spot that you've been to? I have not vacationed very much. I'd have to say my favorite vacation, well, there are 2. I think I'll go with Ireland because I really love that. As I've mentioned before on this channel, we landed in Shannon, spent the week, and drove down to Dublin, stopping at bed and breakfasts. We stayed at a castle one night. So that was probably my favorite vacation spot. Although we went to Montreal for Christmas one year and loved that too. But I probably have to go with Ireland. Number 5. Who has been or is your favorite person or people to be around? Now, Paul said this is a very loaded question, and it is, because if you say one person, somebody else is going to get bent out of shape because you didn't say them. So this could cause problem, although Kat and Walt did say people. So, I mean, I'd have to say my family. Those are the people I feel most comfortable with. If I'm going for one person, it'd have to be Paul. Because with Paul, I can just be myself. I'm relaxed. I'm comfortable. He knows everything about me. I know everything about him. I just don't have to be anything. I can just be. So if it's a single person, I'll go with Paul. But as a group of people, I'd say my family. Number 6, what is your favorite type of music now? I know people do shift around, like you get in these moods. I've been listening more to podcasts lately than I have music. Every once in a while, like if I'm in the shower, I'll listen to music. If I'm driving somewhere, I'll usually listen to a podcast unless I'm not in the mood or I've run out of them for now. Then I'll listen to music. And what I've been listening to mostly now is on our Alexa, I made a playlist for Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race. And it's music from RuPaul, from Todrick Hall, from anybody who's done any of the drag race show, because there are a lot of drag queens who have put out music. Some of it I like, some of it I don't. And Paul's pretty much the same way on this, is it's got to be something upbeat. It doesn't really matter what it is. Like, I'll pass songs on my playlist because they're too mellow. I don't want that. I want something energizing, something that's going to get me going, something that's going to perk me up a little bit. And Paul's the same way with his musical tastes at the moment. We both want something fun and festive and, bubbly. So, but I have been listening to my Drag Race playlist, a lot of RuPaul, a lot of Todrick Hall. Number 7, what is your favorite era, 50s, 60s, etc., and why? Paul, when we went over these questions, he chose the 70s. There was something about that time that he really connected to. And I think mine is the 80s for probably the same reasons. I graduated high school in January of 1980. Yes, I got out half a year early because I'd gotten enough credits because I wanted out. I was picked on a lot in high school. So the 70s were not my ideal. So I'm going with the 80s because it's when I got my freedom. Kind of like Paul had graduated in like the late 70s. So he'd gotten his freedom around that time, which is probably why he chose 70s. But once I graduated in 80 and I could go work, I didn't have to worry about hiding myself as much. Because for me, school felt kind of like, you had to go. It was almost like a prison in a sense, because you had to be there. And if I'd been myself at the time, people picked on me anyway because they assumed I was gay, and rightly so. But I got tortured just for their assumption that I was gay. So I didn't feel comfortable at all being myself until I got out of high school. So I was able to be more relaxed, to be more myself, experience what it was like to be a gay man by finally being able to go out, because at that time the drinking age was 18. Sorry for all you youngins who had to wait till 21. But I think that was my big thing. And I went through a whole lot of changes, a whole lot of experimentation as far as I never really had teen years. I was always home by myself. So I started working at Stop and Shop and hanging out with some of the younger kids. So I was kind of able to experience my second childhood in a way. I was able to finally go through my teen years as I was getting into my 20s. And then finally in 1986, I decided to go back to school. I was adamant I was not going to school. Once I got out of high school, that was going to be it. I didn't want to deal with that anymore, blah, blah, blah. But I did finally decide after 6 years of just working in a supermarket that I wanted a little something more. So I did go back to college in 86 and then went through a lot of the college type things. So I think the 80s has to be my favorite era, just because I got to experiment, got to be myself, got to relax a little bit, not feel like I was roped into being in school and not being able to escape if anything happened. So there was a lot of growth, a lot of learning throughout the 80s, so that's got to be my favorite era. Number 8, if you could learn any type of dance and be good at it, what would your favorite type of dance be? Now, I wasn't sure about this one until Paul mentioned he loves to watch Brian Friedman, I think his name is I'll put his name down here. He has this dance group. They do kind of like a modern type hip hop dance thing. If I could move like that, I would be in heaven. I would love that. I don't know if I could swipe a clip and put that in here. I'm going to check and see if I can, just so you can see what I'm talking about. I probably cannot play the music, but it'll give you some idea of the movement. It's just fascinating to watch. And especially with my neuropathy and myopathy now, to be able to move freely at all would be a blessing, but to be able to move like that, That's what I would love to do. So I'd have to say this modern hip-hop type dance that hopefully I was able to show you a clip of. Number 9, what was or is your favorite pet in your lifetime? Now, when I mentioned to Kat that she was torturing Kim and me with these questions of favorites, she said her other choice was a all pet question list, which, you know, this would have been a very short video because I'm not a pet person. Not to say that I never had pets. I did have a dog when I was a kid named Alcatraz, who lived in a little doghouse in the backyard. And he ended up running away, getting loose, what have you, maybe even stolen, I don't know. But I did not have him very long, maybe a couple of months. Then in the 90s, I had 2 cats. One was named Skylar, one was named Tunxus, after a Native American tribe from Connecticut. And Skylar was a very friendly, very cuddly. Tunxus, if anybody walked in the house, he ran. He was very skittish. He would hide all the time from other people, not from me. But Skylar was the friendlier of the 2. I did have a bird at one point, a little parakeet. Not for a long time, I don't think. But I'd have to probably say Skylar, my cat, just because he was more friendly. And also kind of like, I didn't have to really worry about him like I did with Tunxus running and hiding and being all anxious. Which, believe me, I get anxious. I know anxious. So I get it. But I think Skylar, the cat, would have to be, I'm sure I have pictures of them somewhere buried. I doubt I could find them in time to share them here. But yeah, I'd have to go with Skylar, my cat. And number 10, last question. What is your favorite time of the day and why? Now, Paul chose early morning. It does get up early. He starts work. He works from home. He starts work at 10, but he likes to get up early, play some games, do things on the computer, because for him, that's like the promise of something good happening that day, a brand new day starting. For me, as I've mentioned in other videos, when I wake up in the morning, unlike Paul, I cannot just get out of bed. I need to lay there and relax for a half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour at times, playing on my phone, checking Instagram, checking YouTube, checking whatever. But usually playing my games, because each of my games you get prizes for logging in daily. So I usually go through that whole rotation, logging in, maybe playing a little bit. Long way of saying, it takes me a while to get started. So for me, my favorite time of day is probably between like 1 and 4. After lunch, I have already made lunch. I'm not worried about making lunch. Don't have to worry just yet about making dinner. So I feel free to do what I want to do and just relax, do whatever comes to mind. A lot of times that's when I also go shopping, get out of the house for a little bit. But yeah, for me, it's like 1 to 3 in the afternoon, just because it takes me a while to get started. And once I get out of bed, I have to make breakfast. Then I have to worry about getting lunch ready. And then that sweet spot between 1 and 4, 1 and 3, don't have to worry about a thing. That's my favorite time of the day. And that is the end of these questions. I actually didn't do too badly, and that might be because Paul and I went over them ahead of time. Curious to see how Kim does with these, Kim and David, because they're not types of people who choose favorites. They don't have like a specific thing either. So it should be interesting to see what they have to say. Now, next week, the questions are coming from yours truly, so look forward to those. But thank you, Kat and Walt over at Cat on Point, for coming up with these questions. They weren't as bad as I feared, but again, that might be because Paul and I went over them ahead of time. So if you enjoyed this tag, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet and you're looking for recipes that can help you on a weight loss journey. Share any of my videos if you think there's someone who would appreciate the content. And hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. There is a collab coming up on the 21st that I'm doing with some of the other channels that usually do these tags and then a few others. But if you hit the notification bell, you'll be alerted when that comes out. It's all about 5 tips for a healthy weight loss summer. So that will be coming up. Hit the notification bell. Also, comment down below with your responses to these questions or your reactions to my responses. Whatever you feel like commenting. Just keep it PG friendly, people. And as I said, the questions and links to the other channels will be in the description box, as is my Amazon storefront link, my Built Bar rewards, my Fetch rewards, and my social media. Here's my Instagram handle if you'd like to follow me over there. And there are 2 Facebook groups that I'm part of. One is mine, Recipes with Roy, and the other one is Finding Our Way, W-E-I-G-H. And that one I co-admin with Jennifer Lynn from the Jennifer Lynn channel, as well as Bree Coleman from Balancing Life with Bree. So join us over there for lots of great tips, tricks, recipes, support, and people. So it's about time for me to head back inside. It's a little after 1 o'clock, so you know what that means. My sweet spot. So until next time, bye.